Now, investors are increasingly moving towards support of entrepreneurs with community-driven elements in their business as opposed to fully commercial SMEs. We spoke to Parminder Vir, CEO of the Tony Elumelu Foundation, ahead of the official opening for calls to the 10th Entrepreneurship Program.
High-growth companies do not fall from the sky. They have to be nurtured. Every entrepreneur, every successful entrepreneur you meet, from the Bill Gates to the Dangotes to the Tony Elumelus to the Mo Ibrahams, began with their fire in their belly, with a business idea. They saw a gap in the market and they felt that they could fill that gap with an extraordinary product or a service. Yeah? So Mr. Elumelu recognized that government can only do so much in terms of meeting in terms of meeting the needs, particularly of its extraordinary young demographic, employment needs of the young demographic. He believes that that young demographic, if it is harnessed properly in terms of its human capital and its intellectual capital, it has the potential to create jobs, to generate wealth for themselves, for their families, yeah, for their communities, for their countries, and for their regions, and for the continent as a whole.
Today we are trying to look at the role that is played by significant entrepreneurs in helping like startups, as you were mentioning earlier on. We saw in Rwanda the FONERA that has been also working with green entrepreneurs, and they have gone very deep down to as much as best capital.
Young Africans have the ideas, have the innovation, have the business acumen, and how do we harness that? Yeah, and on that he launched the Tony Elumelu Foundation Entrepreneurship Program, which is a Made in Africa by an African and for Africans program. So we designed the program from the training, because we believe that entrepreneurship is teachable and learnable, and that if you can, equip the entrepreneur who's got an amazing idea with the business skills to then develop and manage that business, you are equipping that entrepreneur with skills for life. Yeah, we also believe that mentoring is important for not just for startups, but also high-growth companies. You need mentors throughout your entrepreneurial journey. We also believe that it was important to provide seed capital, i.e. a proof of concept. So we said we were prepared to lose $5,000 in investing that, but that investment comes after the training, the mentoring, and the business plan that our entrepreneurs developed, which is validated by Accenture. They are also selected. Our selection process is very rigorous. So you can imagine we had 93,000 in 2017. The selection process was tough. We could easily have selected 5,000. I think the final, part of the value chain in terms of developing and growing Africa's entrepreneurs is the network. And it's actually, bringing African entrepreneurs into the biggest network of African startups. Why? Because entrepreneurs learn best from each other. Yeah. Why? Because if you've got a network of African startups in the 54 African countries, you're addressing the issue of cross-border business. Already our entrepreneurs, particularly those are technology enabled and those that are technology entrepreneurs, are beginning to do business with each other across borders. Yeah. They're also important for market intelligence. Entrepreneurs don't have the time or the money to do market intelligence for their products and services across the borders. But if you've got other entrepreneurs who are part of the Tony Elumelu Foundation, the alumni network, you can call on them for that market intelligence. So knowledge exchange is important, yeah? And also, as governments are beginning, as we are hearing here at this, at the policy forum here in Rwanda, governments are beginning to wake up and see that actually they have an important role to play in creating an enabling business environment in which the 3,000 entrepreneurs that the Tony Elumelu Foundation has provided training, funding, and mentoring to, they ultimately have to operate in an ecosystem, yeah? And it's the role of the government to create an enabling environment, and we're already hearing it from regulation in terms of taxation, to also, enabling entrepreneurs so they're not wasting their time going from 10, 20 windows to register their company, but one-stop shop. Yeah, the Rwanda Development Board is a classic example of where they've taken 8 institutions or bodies and merged them into one. So now Rwandan entrepreneurs need only go to that one organization in order to register their company, and also the Rwandan Development Board has really leveraged technology, and as much as possible they're making the ease of doing business, the ease of setting up business for startups and entrepreneurs online as easier as possible. Entrepreneurs, it's not it's a journey. Yeah, you may start by innovating a solution in a community. M-Pesa is a classic example that started. How do we make transfer of money easier? Yeah, amongst those who have a mobile. The mobile penetration is very, very deep. Yeah, did you ever imagine it would become a global brand? That it's a model that could then be transported and across not just the continent, but across, to other parts of the world, yeah? So that's an example that started as a community solution to a community problem and has now gone global, yeah? So I believe that African entrepreneurs, we believe in the foundation and Mr. Elumelu, we believe that African entrepreneurs have the ability to find solutions to those very real challenges, to those very real gaps in the market, which have the potential to grow to becoming, certainly products that can go global, but more importantly, that they must first go across the African continent. In terms of capital, I think, yes, entrepreneurs, the first thing they will say to you is, my biggest challenge is capital. Well, actually, that is not their biggest challenge. Their biggest challenge is to make themselves investor ready, that they have, their product or their service, and the team and behind that, the development of that product or service, yeah, can give confidence to the investor. And the investor doesn't just have to be a venture capital investor or a private equity. It can be government sources of funding. It can be donor agencies. It could be the corporate venture communities, yeah? A lot of the corporations have venturing arms, yeah? It can be angels, yeah? And it can be the accelerator programs. I think the Tony Elumelu Foundation's entrepreneurship program is unique in that it offers training, mentoring, seed capital, and access to network. On top of that, we're also now innovating on our own platform, and we're bringing more capital solutions, yeah? I'll give you an example. We just recently signed an MOU with the French Development Bank, AFD. What they are saying, they came to us and said, we would like to provide a guarantee scheme of 70%. I noticed the Rwandan government is providing 75%. Anyway, that we will guarantee 75%. And the bank will guarantee 30%. Now that's an amazing loan scheme being opened up to entrepreneurs across, they will want to roll this particular scheme out across Africa. Certainly the Tony Elumelu entrepreneurs will benefit, those seeking further loans, and the loan could be from $5,000 to $50,000 and above. The important thing is that the capital is being made to work for and in the interest of entrepreneurs, yeah? With UNDP, we signed an MOU, and we're looking at the creation of a Pan-African entrepreneurship investment facility. All the different instruments that are available for structured financing to be made available to SMEs as they grow. So, once amongst our entrepreneurs, some of them are already wanting to seek, they need more than another $5,000. They need $50,000, $60,000, $100,000, yeah? It's, the mindset of the investors, or, we also need to change and educate the investors, just as we are educating and training the entrepreneurs. To the entrepreneurs, we're saying, get yourself investor ready. Make yourself an investable proposition. To the investors, we're saying, don't always think that the entrepreneur needs money. Bring all the other skills that you have to the table and collectively help us grow and build a Pan-African entrepreneurial class.
Definitely. Now, one thing that I would love to maybe end this with is a question that has to do with the digital era that we're in. It's the digital world that we're in. It's mostly say that business sustainable tools or business tools are not entirely digital, but we are in the digital era or the digital world. What do you deem as sustainable for businesses today?
What I deem to be sustainable for an entrepreneur is that they have a paying customer or a client for their unique product or service that they are developing. That is sustainability, yeah? Whether they use technology, after all, is an enabler. It is not the solution. If I'm a farmer and I grow cassava and I'm processing cassava, I need that cassava to be sold. Technology is going to enable me to sell that, but it's not going to enable me to grow it, is it? Yeah. So across Africa, I think it's really important that African entrepreneurs don't fall into the trap that they must be digital entrepreneurs. Yeah. They must know how to use technology for the growth of their business, how that technology can enable their business. How we also in Africa must grow African software developers, yeah? And that's a different, which is that you are an entrepreneur who really wants to be a tech entrepreneur, yeah? Because we have a shortage of African software developers, yeah? Why is it that a lot of the government agencies, donor agencies, private sector, corporations outsource their software requirements to China, India, etc., etc.? Young Africans should be trained to develop those solutions here. They have the capacity to do that. So technology is important, but always remember it's an enabler. The telephone enables me to talk. You know, the camera enables us to have this conversation that you can then broadcast to other worlds, yeah? But there's everybody gets hung up on this technology and innovation, and I'm really also very critical of these labels that are thrown out, or you're an opportunity entrepreneur, or you're a necessity entrepreneur. No, the cassava grower is neither. He or she is a farmer who has the capacity to become a business farmer, who has the capacity to bring together the dozens of farmers around them to build a business which is collection of all the products, the selling and the distribution, the ability collectively to be able to go for a greater amount of money for the products that they've produced, yeah? So technology is a fantastic tool, but ultimately it's the human capital Africa has and the intellectual capital that Africa has that needs to be leveraged. And that capital is there not just in its young demographics, the 18 to 35-year-olds, but it's also there in its older demographics. And for African entrepreneurship to really flourish and grow, we must capture the demographics across all of those age groups as well.
That was Parminder Vir, CEO of the Tony Elumelu Foundation.